Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vassy. You can find me on X at hashtag Kangas, Instagram hashtag Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, I welcome back Jesse Cardinal. Jesse, it's fair to say that we almost pulled off one of the biggest upsets of the season and probably in the last couple of years. How are you feeling about this one, Jesse? Some people not so happy just to get the draw. Felt like we should have won, but some people also pretty delighted with the effort and to draw against the reigning premiers. Where do you sit with it?
Oh, squarely on the fence, mate. Right on the right on the pillars. Look, I think the main thing for me is that there's positives and negatives. There's both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, we could have won the game, but we could have also lost the game. And we had our moments. We were the better team in the second half. Last quarter, we kicked 4-5 or something like that. Missed some opportunities. Obviously, a late one, but at the same time, they could have easily run it to the other side of the ground and scored if it wasn't for Charlie's, two intercepts in a row. It could have easily been lost. I think you've got to look at some of the understand what people are going to say. When are we going to? If you're just going to accept results like that, you're just accepting mediocrity, and I completely agree. But I think you've also got to be practical. Our percentage is decent. Percentage is looking solid compared to previous years. We've been right in it the last 3 weeks. I argue that we probably should have beaten Port Adelaide and Brisbane, which would have been massive scalps. Essendon was a line ball either way, but I think we were the better team against Port for most of that second half and definitely against Brisbane for that second half. So, look, to dominate the clearance like we did against a team that has probably the best midfield in the competition, the deepest. It helps when obviously one of them goes out with a concussion, but with the deepest stacked midfield in the comp to dominate them, mostly thanks to one man. But it makes a massive difference. So look, if I'm the players, and I'm glad, a lot of people got angry at Simpkins' comments after the game when he got interviewed, and he's like, talking about the draw, but he went straight to, it's a weird feeling, but you've just got to be proud. This is I think. Yes, wins matter. And at the end of the season, we're going to be sitting here going, oh, geez, we only won X amount of games. And it's going to frustrate us. And that's what people are going to remember. That's what you get a draft pick based on. I mean, that's all absolutely fair. But I do agree with a lot of the more knowledgeable footy media where they say wins and losses when you're in our position, when you're in the bottom 8 and you're not going to finish in the finals, wins and losses don't really matter. Percentages is probably a better indication of your competitiveness and where you're at in games. And if you look at it that way, I think we've taken some significant steps. There's some things to clean up, absolutely. I think I fall in the positive camp, but probably slightly, disappointed that we could have gone away with, a massive upset. If anything, it makes me more nervous going into this week.
We'll definitely get to that. Now, let's start with something different this week. Let's go to the last couple of minutes. What did you make of, we'll go to the Costanti decision. Were you pretty disappointed that he didn't use the handball to Dylan Stephens? I'm actually going to defend him a little bit here. I thought Dylan Stephens should have laid the shepherd for him because he's a right footer. He could have cut back inside where there was more options. I think Dylan Stephens, the handball to him, he's going on on the wrong side for a left footer. He would have got run down, I felt. So I actually thought it wasn't a bad decision. But, obviously the kick wasn't great. He probably needs to go more inboard to the centre of the ground. But at the end of the day, I think they would have got numbers back because it would have taken a few seconds for the ball to get back there. So where do you sit on it anyway?
Yeah, look, I've obviously been really, really critical of him, especially the last few weeks, and said that there's many other players I'd rather in the team. He doesn't offer much. I've made my comments pretty clear. I thought that was his best game for the club.
I agree. Yeah.
Only the 12 disposals, but he kicked a goal. He didn't have any goal assists, but he had 4 score involvements, which is okay. I think the main thing for me is he was our 3rd highest tackler. 5 tackles.
Yeah, he got 5 tackles. Yeah.
14 pressure acts, which is, pretty decent. It's up there. I think it was the highest of all our forwards. So I actually think that he did some really good things on the weekend. And in that moment, look, how old is he? 22, 23, 21?
I think he's 20. He's only 20. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
He's upside. we'll see. Yeah, I mean, he was quite. Yeah, he was okay. Like he was nothing. He's not going to be anything too flash, but yeah, he certainly contributed. Sorry, I just get lost in thought because I was just looking at his possessions here. 178 meters go. Yeah, probably. I think as far as possessions go, there's only one other game where he's got double figures. I think.
Yeah, look, I
16.
think we can all say that we definitely want more from him. But
Yeah.
but I thought it was a solid game, and in that moment, look, he's a young player. A lot of young players would do the same thing. There's an argument, maybe not even the Shepherd, there's an argument that Stevens should be a bit more vocal in terms of telling him what to do.
Yeah.
I think that he should have given the hands to Stevens, and then Stevens should have ran it to the 50 and just had a shot. There was probably some other options there. It's a shame. It's a shame, but I actually don't blame him whatsoever because, again, young kid, limited, played less than 10 games, whatever he's played. He's played stuff all games. We're not going to know what he is and what he can be really till he's played 25, 30, 40 games. We're not going to know. He might be an absolute freak, but when he gets to 50 games, we don't know. So I don't blame him for that. I think there should have just, yeah. I think you can't just put it down to one moment. There could have been a lot of moments. Sheasel doesn't kick someone in the hand and give away a free kick. Yeah. Like there's multiple moments in a game of football when it's a draw that could make it either way. My main gripe is that half our forwards couldn't kick from 30 metres out straight in front. So in terms of blame, no, look, it was disappointing. He'll look back and reflect on that, I'm sure, but he's way down the pecking order in terms of people who did the wrong thing.
No, definitely. I mean, I was more disappointed in that one on the wing where it fell out to back to Sherry, and we had overlap runners. We had 4 people running past. Simpkin fumbled, and then no one wanted it. It was like Wardlaw just got it, and then he did a kick, trying to kick to Powell, where it was just a simple you could have run and got some overlap handball. We could have got a deep forward 50 entry through that. I thought that was the more important moment in that last couple of minutes. But I guess it comes with experience, Jesse. It's possibly just a case of not knowing what to do in those situations.
Oh, spot on. Yeah, look, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, we'll go to probably the most dominant player on the ground and one of the most dominant performances I've seen for a long time in a half of football. Now, I'll go to Tristan Sherry's second half stats. 14 touches, 11 contested, 6 score involvements, 4 tackles. It was 11 clearances as well. Absolutely dominated Ruckchell against Fort and the Big O. I mean, he was the main reason we would have won this game, and it was the main reason we got a draw. The Lions have had the best midfield in the comp this year, and it's fair to say that he single-handedly dominated and gave the team first use. Jesse, I think it was second half we won the clearances by 15. Yeah, it was an amazing performance, wasn't it?
Oh, it was absurd. I mean, there was no doubt that he was going to get the 10 coaches' votes. That was the most obvious. No, it was the most obvious thing in the world. Yeah, look, what can you say? That second half, first half, it was pretty even. Second half, he just went absolute beast mode. I mean, like you said, 19 disposals, was pretty clean with it when he got it. 326 meters gained, pretty good. 14 contested possessions. I mean, what do you say? 12. I mean, 12 clearances is absurd.
11 in the second half. Yeah,
and that probably highlights what it could have been if he had come. If he'd been firing in the first half, it could have been one of the great games of all time.
I know.
I mean, look, we're talking about someone had 7 score involvements, 8 tackles, 13 pressure acts. I think the biggest thing for me this year, and I didn't realise this until someone tweeted it today, if you take away the Port Adelaide rookie who played on the weekend, played his first game of the year, Tristan is leading the comp for hit-outs to advantage. He's number 1. Yeah, Last year, I think he impressed everyone with the things we just spoke about. He's effectively another midfielder. He wins the clearance, he tackles, he just dominates around the clearance. But I think his hit out to advantage is overlooked because I actually think that he's become a very good tap ruckman as well. So yeah, I think that is a part of his game that is absolutely overlooked, because he does palm it down generally to the midfielders in advantage, which makes a huge difference. I think. Look, I was reflecting on it today. What does he need to do to go ahead of Gawn? I mean, we all know Gawn had a pretty absurd last few weeks in terms of his own
Yeah.
form, albeit against West Coast and Richmond, who are ranked in the easiest ruckman to play against in the comp, I believe. So look, you would obviously, if you compare him to a Gawn takes more marks, probably intercepts a little bit more, bit more of an aerial threat, can go forward. You'd like to see X doing a bit more of that as well. But I mean, at the moment, his point of difference is that he is effectively another midfielder, and he probably is our best midfielder in terms of ability to win the clearance. He does it all. He's an absolute freak of nature, and one of the biggest things I've ever got wrong in my life. So.
I don't think you were the only one, Jesse. I think at the start of last year, we were really concerned about the ruck situation. But yeah, that's
look,
the
I'm
least
always
of-
going to go back to the fact that at the start of last year, I said we need to somehow limp our way through to the mid-season draft and find a ruckman.
I think we were Yeah, you even sort of might have mentioned. Don't quote me on this exactly, but you sort of said, "Oh, we just need a placeholder for Taylor Goad, almost for 12 to 24 months till he comes through."
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have seen this. It was just
it's crazy.
No, like it's an interesting one, because obviously when the Goldie years, he got played forward predominantly. He was predominantly played as a forward and offered very little down there, as you'd expect from a resting ruckman. And when he was in the ruck, he didn't look great. It's just it's interesting when you get given an opportunity, and some people just grab that and go, and then they realize what they can be. I think it's a sign for most players. There are a lot of players who people write off, I think, far too early in their career, and it's never too late to become a good football player. There's a lot of players who don't do it until later in life, and sure, they didn't do it in their 20s, they didn't do it when they were 18, 19, but they, you can always become a really, really good player, and that's exactly what he is. He's an absolute monster.
Well, James Ponziadli played AFL football when he's 30 years old, and he was a very big contributor in their premiership year. So
he was,
So there's always hope. Maybe not for Darcy Tucker, but other players, I suppose. So we'll move forward. Charlie Comben also back to his best with 21 disposals, 95% disposal efficiency, 12 intercepts, 7 intercept marks, including a couple of crucial ones at the def. I remember that second one, where we did that kick out to the wing. I felt like it was him by himself against 4 Brisbane players. If that ball fell to ground, I thought that,
we were cooked.
Yeah, I thought we were.
We were cooked.
He was. I mean, we talk about a team performance, but without him and Sherry, I mean, they played career games here, and they were really a big factor in us getting close. Really.
Well, I mean, he came third in the coaches' votes. Obviously, Zorko got the 8. I thought Zorko was a good distributor off the half-back line for them. We didn't.
He had 39 touches.
Yeah, we didn't really have a way of locking down on him, unfortunately, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I would say that they were the 3 probably clear best players on the ground for mine. I think that. Comben, we've seen the best and we've seen some of the worst of him. I think that he's improving week by week this year. I think that's what we've seen. I think defensively he's become a bit more solid in terms of his ability to defend. And I think one of the things for me, he had the 12 kicks, 21 disposals, 12 of them were kicks. He had a disposal efficiency of 95.2. I was actually listening on the way home the SEN breakdown between Kingy and Corns this morning of all of the games, just because I wanted to hear what Corns had to say about us, really. And he actually made a really good point. He goes, the knock for him and for a lot of people on Charlie has been his kicking efficiency, and he goes, he actually cleaned that up really well on the weekend. Some of his kicking was really, really solid, good. And he was able to pull off a game that he was able to pull off, which was, a massive thing for him, because he looks like a confidence player to me. If he's confident, he's able to, burst out. The thing for me is him being able to do that week after week. Because, after the Melbourne game, he had a few downers, and then, he's had a good one. Hopefully he can maintain that form. But Yeah, look, I think some people go, the Brisbane forward line isn't that much of a threat. I mean, they only lost one game for the year.
Mm.
They haven't. I would say they're far from playing their best football, and they've obviously got some issues they need to sort out with Danaher out. But their forward line still consists. I mean, we were still scared of that forward line. It's a forward line still at tennis apart. Like Hipwood was good, yep, but they've got Logan Morris, who I think's very, very
No.
talented. They've got some
They've got a
mediums.
lot of smalls, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of smalls, and I think that that needs to be taken account of as well. I think both in him and Pink, what impressed me is there was even moments where they didn't intercept it, where the ball was on the deck or was mid-flight, and they were able to take it and just charge forward. Like I think that's a big positive as well from a defensive perspective. So yeah, look, he was fantastic.
I mean, you might as well talk about the inclusions as well. Toby Pink and Aiden Court came in. I think both more than held their own. Aiden Court spent a fair bit of time on Charlie Cameron, and with the injuries and suspensions we've got on the small defenders, he's kind of going to have to play as a small defender almost, because we really are running out of options here. And Toby Pink, like you sort of said, I thought he came in and did a reasonable job. Probably gave us more. I think he spoke off air. Probably gave us more than Callum Dawson.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. I think Pink. I think they're different players, but I think Pink.
He was a bit stiff to come out of the team in the first place, wasn't
he? Yeah. Because I mean, he came up against a rampant forward line of friggin' Phil Thorpe, Walker, and did he play the week after against Carlton?
Yeah.
Did he, or he got dropped for that?
No, he got dropped.
Yeah, that's right. Because we went in with Logan Core, and that was
Logan came back. Yeah.
Look, I thought he was solid. He only took the one mark, which was contested. But I'd love to see his spoil numbers. He seemed to be really solid when it came to that. Oh, look, he had 6 disposals. He went at 100% efficiency. So, and he had 200 meters gained from 6 disposals. So he wasn't chipping it. No. And going at 100%, which has probably been a knock on him. So look, his player rating was pretty good. He had 61 Supercoach points from freaking, as I said, 6 disposals, touches, getting 10. Yeah, look, I thought he was really solid. I thought he was really, really, really solid. An interesting one for me is that he had the 4 inside 50s. So he. Which is a really weird one when you think about it, isn't it?
When he's getting deep defensive 50 intercepts and playing there.
I mean, if you look at it, Parker had the most 6, then you had O'Sullivan 5, LDU 5, Simpkin 5. But then he's equal with Wardlaw and Cherry. He's got no right to do that being in the back line. So I think, look, I was really impressed with some of the stuff he did, to be honest. So, look, he was a massive tick for me. He stays in the team. And look, I think, to the other person, Core, I thought he was solid. He had to play short sometimes, given what you just spoke about. The Brisbane, smalls are very dangerous. Again, he had 5 contested disposals. He had the 12 disposals. Went at 58%, so it wasn't as clean.
7 intercepts.
Yeah, had the 4 marks, none contested. But I think he played a good lockdown role on the smalls. I thought he played a decent game. And he does add some leadership down there. We're not talking about someone who's not experienced. He is an experienced player. I think we forget that sometimes. And ideally for me, you need someone who's been there, done it before. Probably my thought is that I'll give you one. If Logue was able, and I think Logue needs to build his fitness base up. I think he's a talented player. He just needs to build his fitness and confidence up. If he does that, I don't think he could come in for a call because they're different types of players. He would have to build up.
He couldn't. No.
Like he is more that Pink mold in terms of which I think Pink / Logue at most are a second key defender. I don't think they're that monster key. I still think we're lacking that. which is
Yeah.
why ideally I'd probably like Dawson down there because he's such a beast. I still think that we're lacking that big beast key defender who can take the big forward, which then allows you Logue or Pink to play on the second tall, and then Comden to obviously play as an interceptor. I think that ends up being the good mix. But look, I thought Core was solid. You're not making any changes, especially based on the VFL results. I won't say that our key defenders were. I think the best key defender was actually Adam Tomlinson, which we can talk about later. But I don't think any of Logue had the 17. But I mean, are we sitting here saying that he had a great game? It was 9
I thought he was
disposals.
average. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was average. Whitlock had the 13
He was
disposals,
okay,
5 marks. I think he was pretty clean with it. I don't have the disposal efficiency in front of me, but here we go. No, I've got it here. He went at 100%.
Yeah, I couldn't remember him butchering it.
No, so he went at 100%, which is pretty good. Pretty good. You can't go much better than that. So, look, that probably says enough to me. I think I think there's players there who can come into that mix, but you're not making a change this week. You're not going to change that much.
Patrick Allwood's come in and he said, I don't recall Pink ever playing a poor game. We've been looking since Mickey Martin retired for that beast of a defender.
I think the only one for me that I remember him playing a bad game was maybe the game against Carlton last year where it was him and Dawson and maybe Biggie. And that just was never going to end well. So, look, I think he's a solid player. I think he's a solid defender.
Yeah, look, he hasn't done anything wrong since he's been in the team. He's only played 2 or 3 games, so...
Yeah, is he going to win a Prem? Well, you know what? Every team has that type of defender who just does the job and, doesn't get the plaudits. So, look, I think he was solid. I thought Core was solid, not as good. I think Pink played a better game than Core, but I think both were good and they're going to be important this week. You're not making any changes for one in terms of defences.
No, I mean, it's a completely different back 7 to the first round of the year, isn't it? I don't think there's been one player. I mean, besides probably Caleb Daniel and Luke McDonald, it's all chopped and changed a fair bit.
It is. The mix looks much different, and I think it looks much better.
It looks more mobile now.
Yeah.
And players are probably are a lot fitter that have come into the team. Like you said, I think Griffin Logue seems to be struggling with some sort of fitness form / whatever. But one player that's come in, and we keep talking about him for the last 3 weeks, and he's probably a reason why the back line has really defended really well, and that's Riley Hardiman. Can play small, you can play a bit taller, good intercept player, good skills. I noticed his disposal efficiency was 47%, which shocked me because I couldn't remember him doing a bad kick, to be honest with you.
I reckon that's a bit harsh. I reckon I don't have turnover numbers in front of me. Do you have the turnovers in front of you?
No, I don't.
I'd probably have to check the AFL app.
I'll go to AFL website.
Yeah, if you can check it, because I think for mine, I didn't notice him make a lot of turnovers. Maybe they were scrubber kicks up the ground while he was under a lot of pressure, potentially. But I mean, in terms of our defenders, he
2 turnovers apparently. So
so after Sheasel and Caleb Daniel, he had the most meters gained of any of our defenders.
Yeah, 229.
Which you'd expect, obviously, given that the type of player he is. Look, I think the most impressive thing about him is the fact that he had the 3 tackles, which is good. I don't know how many Sheasel and Caleb Daniel had, but Sheasel had 3. Caleb Daniel had 1.
Yeah.
So he had the 3, 5 pressure acts. 2 score involvements. I think the main thing is, for me, he had the 2 intercept marks, which is impressive. Because he is a small. We're not talking about,
He's showing signs of it in the reserves that he can intercept.
I mean, look, we're talking about a kid that was taken pretty high up in his draft, end of, pick 20-ish or so.
Yeah, 19, 20 or something.
Yeah, he played 3 games last year. He's played 5 games this year, 3 of them as sub, I want to say, or 2 of them as sub. And no consistency. Look, I don't know how we went with Tucker for the first 4 or 5 games of the year in that role, because it's not even close.
It's chalk and cheese. Yeah.
You look at him and you go, he is a defender. He can defend against one-on-one with someone. He wins the ball. He's hard-nosed. He's generally, I think, a pretty good kick. He takes the game on. I really like him. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of him and what he does. He's on the park, which is a start over Yagodas and the other people who are in that role. But I think he cannot come out of the team. He can't come out of that team. He had such a dynamic.
No, definitely not. No, not now. Anyway, just one more defender I'll talk about, and he seems to be copping not so much scrutiny, but his role has come into question of playing the half-back flank. Even today, Kane Corn sort of said, I think he still should be pushing through the midfield. We did try that. I just don't like him and LDU in the midfield together. But look, at the end of the day, I think even David King sort of said on the first crack yesterday that halfback is becoming one of the more important positions on the field. They're almost playing as an extra midfielder. You see the way Connor Rosie is playing. He's not playing on anyone. He's pushing behind the ball.
No, he's got a license to kill.
Yeah. He's playing as a sweeper, just outside the stoppages. And if you get the clearance, you release him. So I think Harry Sheasels adds a lot of calmness to that half-back line. I think this is his role for the rest of the year, to be honest with you, Jesse.
Yeah, look, 29 disposals at 445 metres gained. Still had the 5 contested, possessions, 6 intercepts, really, really good. The intercept mark had 7 marks in general. As I said before, three tackles. I think the main thing for me, and I completely agree with this criticism, is when he wasn't getting any score involvements off the half-back line, and I don't think it's as bad as what Corners was saying, because it is hard to do it when you're on the half-back line, and then Rosie proved that last week against a good team. But 6 score involvements, that's got to be your minimum coming off the half-back line for mine with someone of his skill. But he is playing, absolutely, he's playing a sweeper role. And I think if you look at the last 3 weeks, they've probably been some of our best form for the year. And the last 3 weeks have been the 3 weeks that he has played as a defender. So you've got to marry that up a little bit in my mind, because if he's not down there, who are you swapping him with?
Well, and that's the thing. Who goes back there to take his role?
The only one is the only one maybe for mine is McKercher, who adds then that run and pace off the back line, but isn't as clean and can't defend as well. So you add a different dynamic. I've got no issue swapping them around here and there. Getting them up the ground. Maybe that's a good thing to do. Is maybe do a 50-50 mix between the two, so they get a bit of ball, they get a bit of confidence, but they also have a chance to impact ahead of the ball. But look, I don't necessarily have an issue with Sheasel being down there at this point in time. I think ultimately you want him in front of the ball, but the big thing for me is if he moves back up ahead of the ball, who's going down there? Because it wasn't working earlier in the year for mine.
No, definitely not. And, last 3 weeks, not just the back 7, but the team defence has been a lot more solid up the field.
I like a lot of people say, "Oh, it's selfish." I actually think the role he's playing is selfless, because the best he's looked in his career was the second half of last year when he actually got that midfield forward role. And it could be easy just to put him back in there and, he'd get contested ball. He'd look like a hero. People would say, that's fantastic. He'd probably score more. But he's playing a role that we need at this point in time. We don't have anyone else to play that job.
Yeah. We've got a couple of people coming in the chat. Patrick sort of said Clarko seems to reward the starting 23 from pre-season, a bunch of games to cement a spot before then rewarding VFL form. Hence Tucker, who must have had a good pre-season. He always had a good pre-season. But, generally at the start of the year, every team always goes with the experience first before they start playing the kids. Thanks for coming in, Pat. Omar's come in. Should we go into the Tigers game with 2 pressure forwards, i.e. Constantine and Payne? Tigers are vulnerable down back. We'll talk about that later. But, Patrick sort of says, she's down back until we're ready. Pretty much what you said, Jesse. Until we can find a replacement for him, then, he has to play that role. And
agree.
We're still a poor team. I know we drew against the reigning premiers, but if you're a poor team, put your good players in the half-back line or midfield. Don't waste them in the forward line, Jesse. So
absolutely not.
No, there's no point there of that. Midfield now, it's fair to say Sherry was a big factor in our midfield dominating clearances. We talked about that earlier. But Luke Parker, 23 disposals, 8 clearances, 8 tackles, 6 scoring moments. Geez, he'd be top 2 or 3 in the best and fairest right now, wouldn't he?
He's been huge, especially when you take into account that he had broken ribs coming into the year.
Well, has he still got them? I mean, I assume broken ribs last a while, don't they?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I did it in year 12, so that was many years ago now. But I was sleeping on the couch on my side for 2 months. I was probably procrastinating a bit. They just gave me the endone and told me to shut up and get on with my life. So
that's how it was back then.
yeah. So look, he'd still be probably a little tender. He'd probably be fine now. I think he'd be fine now. Maybe a little bit tender because he plays football and it's not going to heal as well. But the fact that he never came out of the side is amazing. And his last few weeks have been really, really good. Like really good games. Look, I like that he had only 50% CBAs on the weekend.
Me too.
Yeah, because I think the last few weeks they've given him heavy CBAs, and I think he's been really competitive. But they seem to drop him off a little bit when Wardlaw's back in the team because you've got that, that hard, real at the contest player. So it means that he gets to play a little bit ahead of the ball, and we see how dangerous he is in terms of, some of his kicking and at goal was pretty poor. He made a few errors, but he also, and he probably misses that one that he got the 54. So luckily he got the 50 because he had the yips in front of goal. But he set 2 other players up. He does smart things ahead of the ball. He's able to help position the forwards. Look, that was him and Simpkin got 50 and 54%. I think that's almost like, those two swapping with one another. In terms of, I think that's a good mix in terms of those two swapping with one another, who's in the midfield and who's getting the half forward mix. But yeah, look, I think Parker's been absolutely huge. Yeah, absolutely huge. Massive game for us. And he's of the 3, and I think we all knew he was going to be the most important of the 3, but he is the most important of the 3. Like, I don't know exactly what are his numbers this year. What God, are we in 2025? What year are we in?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, look, if you look at this year compared to last year, and I know he's a sub a lot last year, but 14 disposals, he's up to 23. He's back up to his disposals are almost on par to 2023, which I think is really important. His contested ball is about the same as it was in 2023. His goal, he's actually ahead on his goal average, ahead on his goal assists, ahead on his score involvements to what he was in 2023, and I think even 2024. So I think it's a massive benefit that he hardly played last year. Because I think it just means he's fresh. He looks like someone that. What did we sign him for? 2 years?
2 or 3. I think a 2 with the trigger of a third.
Like he looks to me, and I know it's early days, but he looks like someone who'll play 2 years of football.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
After that, maybe VFL, maybe whatever. But he looks like we get 2 years out of him. Absolutely.
Yeah, geez, I'd love to be. I would have loved if he was a couple of years younger, like 29 or 30. But yeah, we can't. We wouldn't have got him if he was that much younger. So
nah.
Yeah, but look, he's added in a lot of valuable experience. And like you said, I like the fact that his CBAs seem to be a lot less when Wardlaw's back. Because I know as much as we want to win games and, get the experience into the midfield, we've still got to develop players and we've got to give Wardlaw every chance, don't we?
Absolutely. Like if you look at the CBAs from last week, he had 64%. So an extra 14%. And obviously Powell's an injury. He had 68 last week, and this week he only had like 20 or 30. Obviously Phillips was
8 CBAs,
which I don't want to talk about. So, but with Parker, look, I liked this mix. I mean, I think he was good last week as well. He still had the 20 disposals, but I think he looks his best when he's getting about 50% of the time in there and 50% of the time around the ground, ahead of the ball, forward flank. I actually think that's his best mix. So, yeah, he's been huge.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Powell's probably the interesting one because LDU had a very good game. The kicking efficiency still lets him down. 32 disposals, 565 metres gained. Simkin came alive in the second half, had a lot more CBAs. Wardlaw, 19 disposals, 5 clearances, 5 tackles. The midfield mix is quite solid. I guess Tom Powell's just lacking that consistency, isn't he? Last week I thought he was quite good against the Bombers, but I thought he lowered his colours a little bit over the weekend against the Lions. What did he have? 16 disposals, 4 tackles, 4 scoring involvements, a couple of goal assists, butchered it a couple of times. Where do you sit with him?
Look, I'm looking at his stats over his career. So this year, last year, year before. So he went from 14 games in 23 to 23 games in 24 to 9 games thus so far this year. He's gone from 16.4 to 20.1 to 22.6 disposals. So his disposal count is still increasing. Disposal efficiency went from 70.9 to 77 to 74. So it's gone down a little bit. The main one for me is his disposal efficiency overall is still 74.4. It's pretty good, especially for a midfielder. So a lot of people knock him on that. I think generally he's pretty good when it comes to that. I think the main thing for me is that he's best and he's worse. There's just miles apart at the moment. His defense, he's laying 5.1 tackles a game, which is up from 4.2 last year. Probably the main thing for me is that from a goals perspective, he's averaging 0.3. You'd like that to get up. Score involvements are up. Goal assists are down. So, look, you'd probably like him to be contributing to scores a bit more. But, look, on any of the metrics, look, I'll give you one. He's had 9 coaches' votes this year. He had 5 last year. And that's the only time in his career. So, I think a lot of people go really hard on him. And they're expecting a lot from him. Absolutely, high draft pick, and I think he should be performing at a higher level. But he's got an interesting role. Some weeks they throw him in there for massive amounts, and some weeks they just throw him on the flank. So he's kind of the Mister. We'll just put you in around the place depending on what everyone else is doing, which is a bit tough. Look, I like him a lot, and I like him in the team. I just want to see more consistency from his best to his worst, and building on that and a bit more competitiveness. It's hard for me to talk about him without thinking about Will Phillips and the comparison.
That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, the comparison of what I would get if I swapped them out. And look, I said I didn't want to talk about Phillips. I mean, the main one is obviously came out of the team. I don't know. The coaches obviously don't like something he's doing. We all really like him. We see what he does. And there's a part of me that goes, I would absolutely love watching just him and Wardlaw get one game together as the 2 primary midfielders. I'd love to see that. I'd pay for 1 week, maybe against good opposition where we know we're not going to win, just to see that, because I think that they had a completely different edge. But look, in terms of Powell, I just need to see a little bit more. But I think some people are being a bit harsh on him. Statistically, he is up from last year, and his numbers are pretty solid. I mean, LDU didn't really take off for 4 or 5 years. Ben Cunnington didn't really take off for 4 or 5 years. It takes time, and I think people forget that sometimes. I heard people writing off LDU earlier in his career. Like LDU, for example, went from 10 to 14 to 17 to 22. So, if you do a comparison, similar, different players, but I think you just got to give him more time and give him games. He should, in my opinion, he shouldn't be out of the side. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you draft too many midfielders too, Jesse. So, yeah, it's probably someone's going to miss out. Unfortunately, players that probably deserve a game. It's probably like I've mentioned this a number of times this year. Eddie Ford as well, probably the best 22 player, but you can only fit in so many half forwards. At the end of the day, we will talk. We'll go to the forward line now. At the time, I actually wanted Darling off instead of Finbar Maley, but thank God they didn't listen to me, because Darling will have these spells of looking like Carey in games, Jesse. I mean, he just shows a bit, doesn't he? Like, there was only 1 quarter where lit it up. Because outside of that, I mean, I'd like to see his first 3 quarters. He had 5 touches, didn't have a score involvement or nothing, and then all of a sudden, last quarter, he looked like he was going to win the game.
Well, that's what he's going to give, isn't it? Like, he's not
Yeah.
going to give full games of consistency. He does some average things. He's out of form at I do think he needs a break at some stage. I don't think it's this week because but I wouldn't be against Collingwood on a fast deck at Marvel. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with resting him, or I think he needs a rest at some point. I know we've got the bye coming up, but I think he needs a rest at some stage. But look, you can see what he can do. He's got experience.
He's still got his smarts.
Yeah,
he's lost his athleticism, but yeah,
100%. Like that mark he took on Harris Andrews, who's probably the best defender in the comp. It was a fantastic mark.
No,
it absolutely showed his smarts.
Yeah. What do you think of the forward line now? To me, it seemed like it was still a bit slow, especially when the ball hit the ground. I know we've got the 3 talls, but if you're going to play those 3 talls, I would like to see an extra zippy small because you probably need those 2 smalls if you're going to do that. We've got Constanti in the team, and Geordie Payne was a match day emergency. Whether it's him, Robert Hansen. Robert Hansen didn't do much in the VFL, so it's probably him and Geordie Payne. Maybe Zane Dersma. He probably struggled a little bit. Now, he's only getting a small amount of touches, like 5 or 6, 7 touches. If he's going to get a shot at goal, he's got to take his opportunities, doesn't he? Last week, he kicked 1 goal, 2. Should have kicked a couple at least. And he had 2 decent shots on the weekend. And I think he only kicked 1 behind, didn't he? I think the other one didn't even make the distance. So, yeah, he's got to take his chances. Otherwise, there's players knocking on the door.
Look, I like him as a player, and I like the fact that we've given him time on the wing because I think he's too talented to just have as a forward, and he can drift out of the games. I didn't mind his game against Essendon and giving him a whole game on the wing. I thought it was worth going at, but you are right. It is probably a bit of a liability at the same time in terms of not having the impact. I think the problem is that you probably can't play him in the forward line as a dedicated forward with the rest of the forward makeup because we do look too slow. So you kind of have to play him on the wing, and he's just finding his feet. I've got no issue with him persisting if it was a wing position because the alternative at this point in time is Bailey Scott, and he's offering 10/5 of nothing. So I think that I don't necessarily hate it. But I do think the forward line does look a little slow.
It does. Yeah, speaking of the wing position, it looks like Dylan Stephens has made it his own. Had a fantastic first half, faded in the second half. Had 18 possessions in the first half, but and finished with 22. That follows up his performance against the Bombers last week, where he had 25. He's probably starting to show a bit of signs of life here, Jesse, and he's the number 1 winger at the club right now. And if you asked me that at the start of the year, I would have said you're nuts because it's Bailey Scott. And, yeah, you just mentioned Bailey Scott, so a little bit out of form. I actually thought he was okay when he came on as a sub this week. He was a lot better than probably previous week. But, yeah, he's been okay, hasn't he, Dylan Stephens?
He has. Look, I think he had his good moments. I think he had his bad moments. I think we're going to see that. There were moments where I just think he didn't. I think there's always going to be moments that I feel like he should be harder at the ball. And I think there's moments where I think that I probably notice mistakes that he makes a little bit more than I notice other players making mistakes because it is Dylan Stephens and we're a bit harsh on him. But his overall game was solid. It was a pretty good game.
That's probably his best game for the club.
I thought so. I mean, I'd love to. I'm just bringing up his current stats this year in comparison to previous years.
Maybe the Swans. Look at the Swans. Probably not so much at North.
So I'll put it this way: his player rating, which is only 6.5, but it's the highest that it's been in his career. His disposals are the highest they've been in his career. He's averaging 17.3. Disposal efficiency is the highest that it's been in its career. Kicking efficiency, the highest it's been in its career. I mean, that's all pretty good. he's had a solid year. Statistically, it's the best, probably the best year of his career. And we're talking about someone who was a top 5 pick. So the talent is there. It's just being able to leverage that. And I think, look, I think he's been pretty solid. I think he has his limitations. But we are talking about someone who's what, 24, 25?
I'd say he's 24. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
he's still fairly young.
Yeah, 24. So there's still a lot of games in there. He is our best winger. He has one of the wings cemented, and the other wing is no one's got cemented. So, look, I think he's had a really good year. I think that there's things we'd like to clean up a little bit, but yeah.
No, definitely. What about now? We'll move forward. Obviously, getting a draw, but this is what we've been planning for probably the last couple of weeks. The game against Richmond. It's a must-win game, isn't it? Like there's no excuses now. I don't know if Luke McConnell's going to get suspended, which would be a laugh.
No, he got off.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's good. Because I didn't check that. But yeah, I mean, there's no. Yeah, like I said, there's no excuses. We have to win this game, don't we? I think we should be in a much better position than Richmond right now.
If we do not win this game, then everything we've just spoken about, all the positives, are worth nothing. They are worth nothing. Oh, look, I'm not saying that we need to win by 10 goals. I think Richmond is a better team than we probably all thought they were going to be at the start of the year. I think it's hard to go past the fact, and it's easy to go past the fact that they've still got six or seven players who played multiple premierships, won multiple premierships. So they've still got a lot, and a lot of them are down back. So they've still got a very, they've got Bolter, you've got Vlosten, you've got McIntosh, got Broad, Short. Yeah. You've got 5 players there, all playing down back, who won 3 flags. So their back line is a completely different situation to us. Their problem is probably weakness ahead of the ball and consistency with a lot of young players, especially. And look, from a midfield perspective, they've got Taranto and they've got Hopper, who've both played in a grand final. Look, they're much better. They were, in my mind, they were much better than West Coast. I think West Coast was lucky to get where they got with them. But yeah, if we lose, I mean, we're paying $1.60 at the moment. We're pretty hot favourites. Where they're paying $2.60 or something like that. So we are hot favourites. I think we need to win by at least 4 goals. But I'll take any type of win, really. But we need to win. we need to win. If we don't win, it's going to be fun.
In saying that, Jesse, I don't want to win like we did against them last year. I don't know if you remember that game.
Oh, that was an ugly win.
Oh, that was a horrible game. That was shit house.
You know what that felt like? I reckon that game last year against Richmond that we won felt like what Essendon felt like winning the game last week, where they walked away from it and their supporters were like, what the hell was that? Yeah. I was talking to someone today, and they go, walking out of the game against us last week, it almost felt like they had played a draw because they were just flat. And that's kind of how I felt again after that Richmond game. I felt like Richmond had the moral victory, to quote our English friends. Yeah, I think they were the better team on the day. We need to be convincing. This is a weird one for you. I actually don't mind that it's at the MCG. This is just me. I think it's meant to be raining a little bit, which will probably rattle us. Because we haven't. Well, we did in Port Adelaide. Actually, we played a couple weeks ago in the rain. Yeah. I actually reckon that we've looked better away from Marvel this year. Like we looked pretty decent in Adelaide both times. In my mind, at Adelaide Oval, I think we looked decent both times. We looked decent at Barossa till the last quarter. We looked good in Hobart. We have we played one more outdoor game, I want to say? Because we played Carlton at Marvel, played the Dogs at Marvel, Melbourne at Marvel, and Essendon at Marvel. And in all of those games, in the first quarter, we forgot how to defend. In every game, Ricky has commented on it and said, we can't defend Marvel. We keep forgetting how to defend Marvel, the width of the ground. I don't know. We go dumb. we forget how to.
First quarter, yeah, we're not
Yeah,
switched on.
and then we fix it. It's just been something I've noticed this year. I reckon we look better playing games outdoors.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I've just noticed it. The Marvel games, I think the deck's really quick. It's easy to get away from us. Quick teams can tear us up in transition. Well, when you're playing outdoors, it's a little bit more forgiving. So I actually don't mind that it's at the MCG, big ground, something a bit different. Means it's wider, has its own challenges, which Richmond are used to. I think Richmond playing their 7th game in a row in Melbourne this week. I think they got a 7-week patch in Melbourne. In which time we've only played at one venue twice this year in a row. We played Melbourne Dogs at Marvel. Every other game hasn't been in the same state. So every second week we've travelled.
Yeah. It's funny how this fixture works, doesn't it?
It is very well. I mean, it's like GWS. They've played at 8 venues in the first 9 weeks of the season.
That's crazy.
Like that's criminal when you've got Collingwood who doesn't travel for the next 9 weeks. I think
probably next 9 years, Jesse.
Wow,
they've
travelled
travelled once this year. That's enough.
I was going to say they travel well though when they do travel.
Yeah, they're a good team on the road.
They're a good team on the road, so they should travel more. Yeah, look, it's just an observation. I don't know if anyone else notices, but I just think we've looked better on the games that are outdoors this year. I don't know why. It's just something I've noticed. Maybe
I reckon, it's better for your mental health going outside rather than staying inside, Jesse. So who knows, mate?
Especially with the humidity at Marvel.
Yeah, that first game of the year, that humidity. I won't forget it. Oh, geez, I was sweating. That was one of the most ugliest, most uncomfortable environments I've been in to watch a game of football. Omar came in. I think we should try another option for second ruck. He'll be much more effective as stay-at-home forward. I'm surprised, in saying that, they don't go with Finbar Malley as a second.
Yeah, it's very odd for mine.
Yeah, I think we even mentioned it last week.
Yeah, I don't know why you're cooking Darling when you've got Finbar who can play ruck. Like if you're going to go down, even if a Will Dawson came in and was playing the Finbar role up forward, I'd prefer him to be the second ruckman.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit strange. He's played ruck in the reserves pretty much most of last year. So
yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, I did enjoy that Tristan didn't take one single break in the last quarter on the weekend.
He didn't have to.
He just kept going.
Yeah, which we kind of had to keep him there because it was look, if he didn't go in for one CBA, we probably would have lost it. So they had to just keep him going. But I don't know what happened to Bryn Teakle over the weekend. I noticed he didn't play in the reserves.
Did he come over as a late emergency or something? Because I know Geordie Payne obviously travelled with the team, which is a bit of a shame because obviously you want them to get VFL games, but.
I don't understand why they still didn't play him. I'm sure after the game you could just fly him up to Tassie. I mean, I'm sure there's flights.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Like this weekend is a bloody weird one. I think our VFL game's on at the same time as our AFL game.
I haven't looked that far ahead.
I think because we're 1:10 this weekend, and I want to say that our VFL game is at 2:00.
Oh, jeez.
So you assume that. I guess you can flick the emergencies over once the game starts. Actually, they can probably just drive straight from the G to Arden Street and play that game.
That's only 15 minutes up the road. So
yeah. So they stay until bounce and then they run across. At least two of them. So that's probably not too bad, but bit crap, I guess.
Oh, it's a shit competition. They have a bye every 3 weeks. It's just rubbish. They should just
not sure on Teakle.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with him. I'm not too sure why he didn't play, but he's been quite solid. Pat's come in and he said Bryn is injured. So
okay.
Yeah,
thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. You'll have to let us know what kind of injury he's got. We'll might as well go to the reserves then. Now, unfortunately, lost quite comfortably by 27 points. Good last quarter. They made it a bit of a contest. Yeah, the rest was rubbish. Will Phillips probably the most impressive. Again, with 25 disposals, 13 contested, 5
7
clearances.
tackles.
Yeah, 7 tackles. But unless there's an injury, he probably won't get in, Jesse.
I don't know what I'm going going to say about him. To be honest. What do you want from me? 5 clearances.
No.
They don't like him. He's gone. He's going to be a midfielder at another club next year, and I wish him all the best because I think he's a great ripping bloke, and I think that he will become a good player at another club. I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm disappointed.
Well, unless you're going to trade Tom Powell or something like that, then he's probably, I think he's, there could be curtains for him, but, and someone to get him on a cheap too, Jesse, probably a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. And yeah. What do you make of, I don't know how much you've seen in reserves, but Eddie Ford was in defence in the first half. What do you make of that?
I think it's worth a crack. You got to give something.
He uses the ball quite well.
Yeah, I mean, he kicked 1 goal, 1. He had 12 disposals. He had the 8 marks. I didn't see how many of those were intercepts.
I didn't see an intercept. It looked like he was just getting
possessions. 2. But
I did see.
They don't have intercept marks.
I didn't see one.
One contested mark, so we probably didn't do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been up forward. He took a nice contested mark up forward.
Yeah. Look, it's worth a crack because I haven't.
We're running out of mid-sized defenders.
Even in the AFL, I don't mind when he travels up the ground. I've always said I don't mind him off a wing or somewhere else other than forward. So it's worth a crack. Got to give it a go.
A couple of other players. Fisher, 31 disposals. I don't think he comes in. We're not going to make any changes to that back line, I wouldn't think. Tucker, a good last quarter. Finished with 21 disposals, but please God, no. Griffin Logue, I thought he was actually quite ordinary. He had 17 touches. Braden George, a nice crumb and goal, front and square. I haven't seen that in the seniors all this year. So,
yeah.
But, I mean...
Still building.
He's still building. Only 5 disposals. But, look, he might be the small forward we're all looking for.
He's talented.
Smart. Yeah, he's got a lot of talent.
He just needs a block of 4 to 8 weeks to build it up.
Yeah, but it still concerns me having 2 ACLs by the time 21.
You hardly see someone who's done 2 by 21 turning it around, unfortunately.
Yeah, but any team changes you'd like to see this week, Jesse?
Just a quick shout out to Will Dawson. Only kicked the one behind, so much quieter week. Only had the 8 disposals, but 7 tackles.
Yeah, I did notice that. So, working hard.
Yeah, 7 tackles, had the 14 hitouts as well, so played a bit in the ruck. I think that, I think it was still a pretty solid game by him. I think that, who had a really good game? Adam Tomlinson. He's been really good this year. He had the 10 intercept possessions, 9 contested possessions. He's been really, really solid.
20 odd touches, didn't he? He got 20.
Yeah. He looked really solid.
He's a good player, He was a good AFL footballer there for a number of years. So that level he should be too good for still. He's only 29, I think, or 30 years old.
Would you take him?
No, I wouldn't take him now. No. I think he's past it now as far as AFL football goes, and we want to give other players a chance, like Callum Dawson, Will Dawson. We've got to know. Toby Pink's been quite solid. I think he's a better option than Tomlinson. Yeah, so
and obviously Whitlock at some stage get him back in. So, look, probably no major changes for me. The main one is probably Payne. I think this is the game that you give it to him. It's against Richmond. It's worth the opportunity. Big day at the MCG. If you're really worried, you play him as a sub, but then you're playing Bailey Scott on field. I don't think he did enough again, Bailey. I'm almost doing Bailey Scott out of the team for Payne, and then doing either Payne as sub or
Dersma, maybe.
Yeah, or Dersma.
Yeah,
one of those two.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that could be. Maybe Finn O'Sullivan gets a rest. Played a number of games in a row for a
Finn's an interesting one. He's an interesting one. I was thinking about this today. A lot of people have been pretty harsh on McKercher, and I think that's because he was talked up all preseason. People thinking he was going to come out like Chris Judd. I'd argue McKercher's done more than O'Sullivan over the entire year. Now, I know it's a first year versus a second year player, but I think you've got to hold them in the same level of standards, I think, in the first few years of his career. I think people have just been a little bit harsh on McKercher. I think he's done some decent stuff the last few weeks. He drifts out, but he's a young kid.
Yeah. Playing a new role as well.
Yeah. So I think, I think it's an interesting one with Finn O'Sullivan because he doesn't get a lot of the ball. He does some nice things with it. I'd like to see a little bit more. I'm probably being harsh, and a lot of people really like him. If you compare him to a lot of the other high draft picks from last year, like Harley Langford kicked 3 goals or something on the weekend. He looked fantastic for Melbourne. And I'd take Levi Ashcroft out of the equation because he's by far the best player
No,
in the
that's
draft
right.
pool
Yeah.
by the length of Flemington. He's just the last 2 weeks have been really, really good. If you remove him from the equation, look, Laylaw's been pretty solid. But I think it's some of those players a little bit higher up that have actually had really, really good years. I'd like to see a little bit more from him. I'm still not sure where or what position we're playing him in. It seems to change a little bit. I'd like. I know it's not going to happen because it's not going to happen. But I'd like to see him ahead of the ball a little bit more as opposed to behind the ball, just to see what his forward line craft is like.
Yeah, they haven't really trialled that, have they? I mean, he played a fair bit of junior football as a half forward, but he was playing. I think he's been playing mainly as a wing / half back a little bit. So yeah, like you said, I wouldn't mind trialing him as a half forward, but they'd probably and you could push Dersma up to a wing, so they could
I think the
rotate.
main thing with Sal, I'm just looking at him and McKercher this year. So almost identical player rating. Uh, disposals, McKercher's averaging 15, Sullivan's 12.5. But I mean, I think the main thing for me with O'Sullivan, kicking efficiency is 75%, so 15% higher than McKercher. Disposal efficiency is 81%. I think, look, what he does with the ball is generally pretty impressive. I just want to see more of it.
No, yeah. I mean, he's still a first year player, so
Of
you
course.
give him a bit of a pass. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, McKercher faded in the second half, only 2 touches in the second half. I thought his second quarter was quite good. He was starting to get really involved. He had 11 possessions in the first half. So yeah, I mean, he's slowly getting there with his new role this year. And I feel like he's going a little bit tougher at the contest as well at the moment too, which is a big difference. But it's going to be interesting to see what. I don't think they make too many changes. There might be 1 or 2 because there's just not enough in the reserves for anyone to really come up. That's really knocking down the door. Maybe Geordie Payne was there but he didn't play on the weekend. So they might even give him another week. Who knows? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Any final messages, Jesse, before I let you go?
No, I think that's about it for me, mate.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Now, appreciate you coming on tonight. There was a fair bit to go through. It was obviously a lot more positive. Let's keep this positivity for next Monday. We don't want to be talking about we've gone backwards, we've cooked. We've got to get Darcy Tucker back into the team.
We're not going anywhere. If we bring Darcy Tucker back into the team, I'm tearing up my ticket. I'm not going. I refuse.
Yeah, no, I think you wouldn't be the only one probably. But yeah, we'll see how we go on Sunday. But are you feeling confident about Sunday?
Oh, I mean, I think we should win, but that's me making a statement. I'll feel confident about games when we win 2 games in a row.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, I don't think that's happened for a long time. Not since Clarkson's first 2 games. I think, yeah, that's going back a long time. So, yeah, well, we've got something to build on anyway. We drew against the reigning premiers, who are going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the year.
Look, we play like we did against Port Adelaide and Brisbane. We win.
Yeah, definitely. You'd have to think so. But things can change pretty quickly with this football club. But we'll wait and see. But anyways, Jesse, I really appreciate you coming on. And I'm sure I'll chat to you next week.
Thank you.
No worries. And thank you to all your listeners as well. I'll try and be back Monday evening next week I'll probably be back on Thursday. What am I talking about? So to go through team changes, give a thumbs up. Subscribe, leave a comment, tell your mates and whoever about it. That's it from me. Bye for now and go Roos.